Hello, everyone, and welcome to All Four Downs. It is me, Ovi Muniz, filling in for Joe O'Guire, and we got quite a show that's coming up in just a few moments. But we'll take you back to this game called NCAA College Football. Yes, we're going to be talking about the game that might be coming back. We're also going to be focusing on the ACC Conference. Which team will be on top? We're going to review each one with Sean and Jace, so stay tuned. Hello, everyone. Hey, Jason, Sean, thank you for being on the show. Man, college football, man. It was like I'm missing the action on Saturdays. And
Yeah,
I'm not really a Pro Bowl fan, but I feel like there's just something missing on Saturdays that I'm so used to. Rather it's games cancellation, then you're forced to see another game and stuff like that. And I got a feeling that not a feeling. It just I felt like I was able to watch all kinds of college football bouncing from conference to conference, and then now here we are waiting. There's no XFL. We have to wait till 2022. And now we're just talking about what the developments that can happen for the next college football season. And last week we started with SEC. We determined that Alabama and Georgia should be the teams that will represent in excuse me, the SEC Championship that will be held in Atlanta. This time around, we're going to talk about the ACC. And so the ACC come back, they come a long ways. And now it feels like Clemson and Alabama FCC. You know what I mean? Is Clemson's going to continue that drive going forward, or will be another team that surprises? We don't know yet. But first, check this out. College football game. EA Sports announced that that game is coming back. The timeline's not even there. And I have to admit, you guys, I still play college football. And yes, I still have my Xbox 360. I don't know about you guys, but if there's any football that I play with, it is that right there. Big J's, you still got that game or no?
I still do have that game somewhere in my attic somewhere, but I haven't plugged it in a long time. I'm excited to see an updated version. I love the heck out of that game. I don't even know how countless hours I have put into that game on my old Xbox 360. So I'm excited to see it revamped. Come in. I don't know when. They didn't really give a timeline, but I'm excited for it.
Yeah, hey, they still play even online. If you go to earnitdynasty.com, that's right, earnitdynasty.com. They have that game. You can play online, and I think they also use that intertwined with Twitch. So it's amazing how they still on the side, they're still able to develop that game. But for EA Sports to come back, tell everyone, make that announcement yesterday that the game is coming back. That is pretty awesome. But more to that story is that after EA Sports made that announcement, Senator Chris Murphy of Connecticut issued a statement saying that he will introduce legislation to help players finally profit off their talent so they don't need to face continued mistreatment like this. As you know, the reason why the game got disbanded and not made anymore, no more productions, was the fact that the players were complaining about them not profiting in the game. Also, in quotations, so EA Sports College Football, we just felt that it's the right name for the product for not only now, but also as we move forward, meaning that it will be called EA Sports College Football. So that's pretty amazing there. So I'm pretty much excited. Hector Vasquez, who is tuning in with us, I have a PS2 NCAA Football 11. Wow, bro. That's going way. I'm surprised your PS2 is still playing. I know Jace was telling that his old PlayStation saw the motor seemed like it was going to take off on him. So,
Yep, my PlayStation 4 is loud when it turns on.
so hey, I used to play SEC teams because I always kind of won my games with SEC teams. Jace, what was your team?
Dude, I always floated around from the Utah schools, Utah, BYU, Utah State. Just create a dynasty, go on a run there as a coach, and then every now and then switch back and forth.
All right. What about you, Sean?
Yeah, I didn't really have a favorite team that I picked every time, but one feature I did love about the game is obviously the mascot mania part where you could play as the mascots. I loved that as a kid growing up. That was always so much fun. I thought it was really the best part about the game. So I hope they bring that feature back when they eventually bring the game back. But I'd be definitely looking forward to that because it's so much fun going up, just picking all the random mascots and going and playing some football. So definitely happy that EA Sports, has brought this back. And definitely, I think that college players should be able, to profit off their image and likeness. I think they should have been able to for the longest time, but now that they're actually, making pushes and developments to do this, I think it's very important for all the college athletes out there.
I think not only that it's important, but it also drives the fans into the game. Like EA Sports is in the game. I mean, it sticks with you. And most people don't really like NFL, man. And then even if the NFL players are critiquing the guys that make it, say, why is my number, my rating number's low, you know what I mean? And stuff like that. But yes, to add on, that's Frank Cuesta and his podcast, Speaking It Real. OV will now play the Army team. You know what? I'm still playing the Army team on the NCAA football 2014. So I started as an offensive coordinator, and I promoted myself to a head coaching job. That's kind of hard to do, man. Man, it's hard work. It's too bad I don't get paid for it, but absolutely. The Wildcat is always the hardest formation to execute. I don't know why, man. But anyways, talking about execution, the 2021 recruiting rankings are coming out, and I think if I'm not mistaken, yesterday and today was the day for signing. And so far right now, Alabama's in the lead with the recruiting class. They're at number 1, followed by Ohio State, Georgia, and LSU. But quite fascinating, we'll see Clemson, Oregon in the Pac-12. Texas A&M in the SEC. But USC is making some moves. I understand that they didn't have a good season last year, even though they were limited to 6 games. But to see them actually pulling some strings, getting the recruits in there, it's interesting to see how that Pac-12 is going to happen between USC and Oregon. Matter of fact, Jace, the Pac-12 is on your side of the house. What do you see on that one?
I am very intrigued to see how those two teams match up here to come. But I do think Oregon is solid in recruiting. They should retool. They are losing some key pieces of their team to the draft. Same goes for USC, but I think USC is more in a win now type of scenario. So, I mean, I guess we'll talk a little bit more about that when we get to the Pac-12. But
absolutely, yeah. USC is still building, and they're not losing that much players to the draft. So it's interesting to see the things that happened last year that they could learn from and move on. I was the biggest critique on the USC, especially when they barely beat the Arizona colleges. So, but more to follow on that. That's coming up in a couple of weeks. But we'll focus on the ACC here. And before we move on, I also want you guys to take a look at this as well, because this is going to be beneficial, especially during the preseason rankings. Right now, if you look at it from the far left corner, you will be projecting that it's the senior class of these recruits. So Georgia is in the lead, Ohio State and Texas. But if you look at the junior, sophomore, and the freshman class that we had just looked at, you can see how Alabama is still maintained to be one of the top recruits. And Texas is making a name for themselves as well. But Ohio State too. Ohio State's been in it for the longest. So if anyone is projecting about why we see the same teams and here and there, just look at these colleges and how they recruit. I mean, Alabama, we could see them on top for the next 4 or 5 years, or unless Nick Saban, maybe decides not to coach anymore. But that's what we got looking out for the forefront all the way to 2024. Um, but of course, things happen, and you can see underneath transfers can reflect on changes. But expect Alabama, Ohio State to be contenders for the next 4 years. And speaking on that, the projected preseason rankings as of now, Clemson, Alabama, Oklahoma, and Georgia on the Final Four, with Ohio State and Texas A&M looking in. Of course, all that can change with the transfers and everything else, but the official rankings don't come out until the month of August. And here we go. ACC, Clemson, Notre Dame. That was the past. Now Notre Dame's moved on to being independent. And this is what the standings, of the 2019 and 2020 standings. Notre Dame finished undefeated. They did a very good job, especially getting Clemson to when they were vulnerable without Trevor Lawrence. But they paid the price in the postseason. They didn't make it. So, losing to Alabama and then moving on to, back to independent, they still are competitive. Because if you see their schedule, they play USC, Purdue, Wisconsin, and North Carolina. Those are good games. And
Cincinnati
Brian Kelly,
too.
I didn't see. Oh yeah, matter of fact, Cincinnati, which is probably one of the top 10 teams starting off in the season. So Sean, can we see Notre Dame making it to the Final Four?
I believe we can, because obviously, Brian Kelly does a good job of recruiting, and he's a great coach, and Notre Dame is usually always there. So I think that they definitely have a tough schedule. You look at, some of the teams. I think USC, as we just talked about, they're on the rise. Especially, they made the Pac-12 championship last year, and they bring Keaton Slovis back. So that'll be a tough game. And then obviously Wisconsin is always good. North Carolina's got a lot of talent on offense, and Cincinnati would bring in Desmond Ridder back. So it's definitely gonna be a tough schedule. But I think Notre Dame can do it. Because I don't think Notre Dame has a problem, beating most of the top tier teams that aren't Clemson, Alabama, and Ohio State. But I think when they get to play the elites, I think that's really where they have a problem. Obviously, they don't show up in the big stage, but I do think that they have a chance, even with one loss, to sneak in the college football playoff. It's just really when they get there, they have to go out and above and beat the best of the best.
Right, they losing Ian Book as requires he's going to the draft, so it's going to be pretty interesting to see who's gonna be the starting quarterback for the team. But yeah, I agree with you, man. They put themselves in a situation that their schedule is hard. They could have taken it easy for being independent, but they're in it for the long run. And I would be surprised if they don't make the top four if they finish 12-0. Moving on, Jays, to Clemson. They made it to the Final Four. Could they make it with DJ Ugalele? That's how you say his name?
DJ Uiagalelei. I like DJ a lot. I do think they will struggle, and I think if you are any other team in the ACC now, this is the season to take advantage with the changing of the guards from Trevor Lawrence to DJ Uiagalelei. I do think Dabo Swinney will still have them compete in the ACC, and they are still the favorites come out of the ACC. But that Georgia game is tough, and I do think they have a pretty big waltz, nice easy road into the ACC championship game. But I do like the teams right behind them, Miami and UNC, to give them a tough challenge in that ACC championship game.
Yeah, they also play at Powerhouse November 13th.
Oh yeah, man, that's man, that game. I'm telling you, man, I can't wait to see that. It's UConn. Everyone's sleeping on UConn, but I guarantee that they will make the other team like the best team ever I'm telling you. Nah, in the room, no, it's pretty cool to see Connecticut trying to get that experience, as I want to say, because they didn't have a good season 2 years ago. They missed out the whole entire year because of COVID-19. They decided to cancel the 2019 season, so it's going to be rough for them to bounce back. It might be a long season for UConn, but playing these top teams is probably going to be beneficial in helping them improve as years go on. Moving on to Miami, head coach Manny Diaz had that team go 8-3. He's been here since 2019. He has one winning season, and we're hoping that Derek King will be healthy enough to start, as they start off with Alabama. And guess what else they play? They play a team called CCSU. So those of you that don't know, Central Connecticut State University is from my hometown, New Britain, Connecticut. Yeah, their stadium, it has just bleachers. Okay, like a high school football team. You know what I mean? And for them to travel all the way to Miami, that is pretty awesome. You know what I mean? And I kind of like it. But Miami got two challenges besides their conference. They play Alabama and Appalachian State. Jace, what'd you see on this one?
Yeah, I do think they have strong tests right off the bat, and especially if De'Ara King is going to be struggling with some health issues. Alabama, and even like that App State game, week 2, App State's shifty, and they can take advantage of a depleted Miami team coming off a tough game against Alabama. But I really think it's all going to come down for the ACC Championship to meet Clemson. It's going to come down to that game between Miami and UNC. And whoever wins that will find themselves facing Clemson in the ACC Championship.
All right. So, hey, Sean, North Carolina, 8-4, Mac Brown. Second time he's back with the North Carolina Tar Heels. Since he's been back, they've been winning, a winning team. He has a total of 8 winning seasons. He has Sam Howell as his starting quarterback. And compared to last year, and what can we see this year? And can we see a big improvement for North Carolina?
I think we will. Obviously they had a pretty good season last year, a couple of tough losses, but they held close with Notre Dame, and then obviously they kicked the crap out of Miami. So I think Sam Howell, he's definitely going to be in the running for a Heisman contender. I think he had a great year last year. It's just I think the record had to do with why he wasn't on there, and obviously he struggled a little bit at the end. But they lose their top 2 running backs, but I don't really think that's going to matter. I think their offense is super explosive. Mac Brown is a great recruiter, and he's still getting some of his recruits in just because he hasn't been there that long. But I definitely think it's going to be a big year for UNC. I agree with Jace's assessment. I think that UNC and Miami are definitely going to be the 2 teams up there battling with Clemson. And I tend to think that UNC will actually be the team, better than Miami. I think that they actually have a legitimate shot to win the ACC this year. They have a lot of talent coming back on defense too. So I think UNC is definitely a team to keep your eye on. And I think Sam Howell, is definitely going to be in the runnings for the Heisman Trophy.
All right. Speaking about that, we got Ben Finley, who is a sophomore going in as a quarterback for NC State. Under Dave Doran, who is entering another season. He has 6 winning seasons. It was all right, 8-4. I mean, 4 cost games, but like I said, those were all within the conference. Can they be able to bounce back? Well, that's a long shot. But looking at their outside schedule, their hardest schedule is against Louisiana Tech. And, for if you want to be a contender and everything else, you're going to have to win out the ACC. And if you look at this, they're going against Clemson. They're going against Miami. Matter of fact, they will be at Miami. So they got a tough road games coming up this season. Also, Boston College, 6-5 under Jeff Halfrey. 1 winning season. He's entering his 2nd season with Boston College. They look very impressive. And that defense is looking strong. They were getting stronger and stronger towards the end of the season. I expect Boston College to make some noise. That team is going to be surprising to a lot of people. No one's talking about the Fighting Eagles. Watch out, ACC, because Boston College is stepping up. Also, Pittsburgh, Pat Nadorsey, It's been a coach since 2015. He has 4 winning seasons. I think he's relying on Davis Boville as his starting quarterback. Outside conference, they're playing Tennessee, and of course the same teams that they're playing. They're playing Clemson, Miami. These guys got to knock out two out of these top teams in order to be considered one of the strong universities. Jace, Pittsburgh, they were mostly known as the upset teams and stuff like that. You think they'll bounce back here?
I don't. I wish I could say they are, but I don't think they are. Too many losses. Kenny Pickett, moving on. Their whole defensive line. That was their real strong suit last season. Was their ability to get pressure. Patrick Jones, the second beast, at getting to the quarterback, but they're losing that whole aspect of their game from last season, as well as their quarterback. I think it's going to be a rough year for the Panthers in Pittsburgh.
All right, and then Sean, Virginia Tech 5-6. Justin Fuente, you think he's going to get this team over the hump and get a winning season?
I don't think that he is. Unfortunately, they had a rough year last year, and there's just some of the games. I think Miami is definitely a game that doesn't go with their advantage, and neither is Notre Dame. And I think West Virginia, they were pretty good last year, so I think that they'll continue to improve upon that. I think that they will go out and beat Virginia Tech. So I don't necessarily think that they'll turn it around. Obviously, Virginia Tech is one of the more storied programs in the ACC. But I think they're going to have to wait a little while longer until they're back to that top spot. Obviously, their recruiting isn't great, and I just think that they're going to struggle this year. But I could be wrong. We'll see how it plays out. But I don't see Virginia Tech really being at the top of the ACC by the end of the year.
All right. Speaking about another average team, Virginia 5-5 under Bronco Mendenhall. Not too successful, being the coach since 2016, only 2 winning seasons. That's not going to get you far, man. And if you're relying on Brennan Armstrong, I don't know much about him, but Virginia has not had that much success under Mendenhall, and he could probably be on the hot seat. And what could keep him away from the hot seat? Can he handle BYU and Notre Dame? Of course, you gotta beat and win out your conference, but BYU Notre Dame, that's gonna be a big one for that school. Wake Forest 4-5. Dave Clawson, the head coach there, he's another one that's on the hot seat. He's relying on Sam Hartman. Their hardest schedule outside the conference is against Army, so we'll see if they will be able to slow down Army in their running game. And Georgia Tech, I know Jace is gonna laugh because I had them ranked pretty high at week 1. Okay, week 1, Jace, week 1. But anyhow,
I'm not that mad at Georgia. I think that they're going in the right direction. Did you know, betting wise, they were the number 1 over team last year. They had the best record against the over.
Yeah. So, okay. That sounds great. I mean,
Jeff Collins bringing that offense.
They're still 3-7. And that's how they finished, and I won't see any difference with them then. Louisville 4-7 under Scott Satterfield, entering his 3rd season. Only have 1 winning season. I don't know what to expect out of this team, but their biggest challenge is against Ole Miss, especially with the rest of the conference games that they got to play. So hopefully they could turn their season around, but it doesn't look promising. And Florida State with Mike Norvell, this is his 2nd season. Understand that there's been a lot of issues before he even became the head coach. Hopefully this year around they could straighten everything up, but they will be playing Clemson. They will be playing Florida at the end. So their rivalry between Florida State will return. Let's see if they could take that 3-6 team and turn that season around. Duke 2-9. Dave Cutcliffe, 2008 until now, he has 5 winning seasons. Biggest games he got is Northwestern, which is that team is one hell of a defense that they got there. They can't close to making it to the top. They were ranked in the top 15, and Kansas they've been lost. But now with COVID out of the way, let's see if Kansas can bounce back under Miles. And lastly, Syracuse, Dino Babers. Now we've been saying this. We talked about this before the show. I'm surprised Dino Babers is still the head coach of Syracuse, Sean. I mean, this guy only had one winning season since 2016. He's relying on Jacoby and Morgan to be the quarterback. They play Liberty, but is this like the first coach that could be fired this year in the middle of the season?
Yeah, I think Dino is definitely on the hot seat right now. Obviously, you mentioned only the one successful season, when they had a really good secondary, and then obviously Eric Dungy, their quarterback, was playing really well. And I think that they're kind of just still living off that. Obviously, they had that big upset that season against Clemson, so I think that Syracuse feels some loyalty towards Dino Babers. I'm sure that's why they don't want to rush them out of there too quick. But at some point, you got to, try and turn this thing around. Syracuse football should be at the top of the ACC, or at least, obviously that's what they're striving for. And I just don't think that Dino Babers is the head coach to do that. We'll see if they could turn it around a little bit this year. But like you said, the non-conference schedule isn't too great. Obviously, Liberty, is a really good team. And Rutgers, we talked about it before on the show, but they're improving with Greg Schiano back. So I just think that he's definitely on the hot seat, and I think that by year's end he will be fired by Syracuse.
You're muted, Ovi.
One last thing that we could say about the ACC right now, out of all the teams that we just discussed, who is your two teams that's going to the ACC Championship? Now I'll start it off. I have Clemson and North Carolina. Jace, who do you have?
I disagree with you. I have Clemson and Miami. I think Miami's going to just out-edge North Carolina this year.
All right, Sean?
Yeah, I'm going to go with Clemson and North Carolina. I think that, obviously the De'Aaron King injury sucked, especially in the bowl game. Obviously it sucks that happened because De'Aaron King is such a fun quarterback to watch. Obviously not just passing the ball, but, doing it in the running game. So I think that will hurt Miami at the start of the season. Hopefully he's going to be here for the start of the season. Hopefully he doesn't miss any games, but I just think that could be a detriment to Miami. And I just really like what Mac Brown has done to restore the North Carolina football program. And I think that this is the year that, they kind of put themselves on the map. Obviously they had a good year last year, but I think this is when really they get to the national stage and start to make themselves a name, not just in North Carolina, but really across the country. And Clemson, I think Clemson, they don't rebuild, they reload. Their recruiting classes are always great. So I think I'd go Clemson, UNC.
Well, my problem with UNC is you can't get there if you're going to have losses to Virginia, to Florida State. Like, you can't have those bumps along the way. And even though they're out of all the ACC schedules we looked at, they have an easier road to the possible the championship game, but they might have those bumps where they might lose to a Boston College, a Georgia Tech, one of those teams you don't expect. And that's why I trust Miami more. They showed last year they keep close games, but when it is like a 1-point game, they will edge out ahead.
And I could say, hey, it's a rebuilding season. They finally got their starting quarterback. Now they can prove everywhere else. They got the firepower to do it. Defense, let's see if they make some improvement there. Because that was also another issue. If you're going to go out with a blowout game, a high score game, a shootout, that's a toss-up. Is North Carolina win or lose? We've seen that. It's 50-50. So hopefully if they can improve that defense, they'll be a dangerous team moving in. And that they can hang with Clemson. The problem is it's all about execution, like any other game. And I feel confident that North Carolina could probably do it this year. And if Sam Howell is the guy that you say, Sean, that he is a caliber Heisman candidate, this is the season to do it. This is the season to shine. You don't have Trevor Lawrence. You don't have to be in anyone's shadow. He has to come up and play. So But hey, man, good talk. I like it. Next week we're gonna be focused on the Big Ten. And I know a lot has to do with Ohio State. They're doing a fabulous job recruiting. But could Michigan actually do something? Because they've been making some noise in recruiting as well. I got some lists that maybe, just maybe, Harbaugh did get an extension. So we'll see, man. I know it's crazy, man. But sometimes it's all about loyalty. And if that's what he demonstrates and he's teaching those kids about loyalty, we're just gonna have to wait and see. Or can Penn State come back? Or Minnesota? They're without Bateman for the draft. So we'll see. So Big Ten next week. Also, we're gonna have a lot of reactions on the Super Bowl that's happening this Sunday. And a lot has to do with the NFL draft. So who's gonna be the bottom 31, 32, as we can say. But hey, don't forget, check us out at hhwshow.com for more news about college football. And of course, we also cover down mainly the WWE wrestling, as well as John about the G-Men with Jace, and Sean, you're a part of that too with John about the G-Men. And hey, this is the season when we wish the XFL would happen. I just wish they didn't have to cancel the season because they definitely would have started next week. But of course, we have to wait till 2022. But more to follow on that. So, like I said, stay tuned to hhwshow.com for more news on that. On behalf of Clovercrest Media, Jace and Sean, I'm Ovi Muniz. Thank you for listening to All Four Downs.